Good evening. We are actually going to study the Ebola virus on the struggles of conservation. And I think a virus actually is the hardest thing to plan for when it comes to conservation of a species. I used Ebola and the death of primates because it's going to relate to the story and what I'm going to get to and how it can decimate a whole population. But let's dive into what is Ebola. All right, so 1976, we had 318 cases forming up in the Democratic Congo. People were coming in the hospital with fevers, aches, seizures, vomiting, hemorrhaging everywhere, and they had no idea what was going on. Finally, we got some blood samples. We realized in the blood, there's a virus floating around, and we had to figure it out, and we named it the Ebola virus. Like with all viruses, they must have a host to live in a cell. So they use a protein. They use a protein to then convince the cell that they're meant to be there. And it's unlike a prion, which is even harder to treat because that's a misfolded protein. A virus, has in a cell, and they're easier to adapt to. But there's all right here. There is a lot of Ebola viruses. Different means same genus, just different species and strands of the virus, which led to different outbreaks. Out of all those Ebola viruses, only 4 of them actually affect human beings and have a spillover effect with humans. So I focus on the term spillover effect, and there's a great book. I know this is a little off topic, but you need to read Spillover. It's actually on Amazon, and it's about how viruses leave from humans or animals to humans and how it actually is the biggest thing. Hence what we're going through now, what can happen. So how it originally starts is the animal-animal transmission, but then the spillover effect takes over. And then when he's hunting or anything for the monkey, he gets it. A human-to-human transmission. It literally comes from touch, bodily fluid, sweat, anything like that. It also makes the virus so dangerous. And then you have a chronic illness afterwards when it comes to, muscle aches, drowsiness, lethargy, all those things tend to happen after that. Again, we're going to focus on the spillover. So to blood, body fluids, tissues of animals, anything like that. In the COVID virus per se, we have to cough and we have to breathe it in, and it takes a little bit of time to get into it. So 6 feet is good, and if you touch where someone touched, you might not get the virus. If someone coughs on the desk and it's still wet, and you touch it and it gets in any of your orifices, you're going to get the virus, and that's what makes it so scary. Even if they died from it, the virus still lives on. Symptoms start from 2 to 21 days after exposure. And I put this little chart here to show what it can do. Symptoms, headache, and then you go to your final stages right here, which is most people go to the hospital about right around day 10. It takes time, especially in 2000 when we're focusing on this, to get the test done to record. I mean, you got to run into virology, you got to go to infectious disease. There's a whole bunch of stuff you have to go. And then right here, it's just not really anything good after that. The reason I tell you that, let's take it to a veterinary perspective. So we're going to focus from here over the African gray monkey. Okay, so these were actually done in a lab to see if they could do, if they were needed, and see if they affected the virus and how that worked. What this virus actually would affect more in wildlife is what we need to focus on. So they didn't have to adapt it by any means. The virus took right to them. Incubation period was baboon had an outlier right here, but most of them were kind of normal. And this, that side effects, we hate miss, but what I'm saying is manifestation of hemorrhagic side effects, which is actually what kills them. Yes, all non-human primates seem to get it, and they all seem to have a mortality rate. And that's very important. What's also important, this is not just a virus for wildlife, strictly for primates. It affects fruit bats, pigs, dogs, rodents. And that's what takes it hard and can actually kill, makes it so hard for conservation planning, because you cannot plan for a virus. And when it comes to stopping an outbreak, you might have to make some hard decisions actually killing some species. So they have the same symptoms as humans. If you look veterinary, but in their defense, they can't tell you they're sick. And so you don't notice these symptoms until the very end. The article I chose in the study really hit home. 5,000 primates deceased. So there was a group of researchers in Africa, right around here. And they were studying a group of lowland primates and in gorilla populations. When they noticed a decline in some of the species they were looking at, this was before the outbreak. Then the Ebola outbreak began. Humans started getting sick. They found a carcass of the gorilla. Within 4 weeks, they found 32 carcasses. In 12 weeks, 130 of 143 gorillas monitored were deceased. And I put the new group because a new group of researchers came in 2003 to see how the population was still getting. Turns out they were focusing on smaller nests, and 91 out of 95 individuals they saw had deceased. That meant per density kilometer square, they estimate that 5,000 have been killed with a minimum of 3,500 of these species killed, which is detrimental to this small population to begin with. And the species I'm talking about is the lowland gorilla population in 2012. 10 years after the outbreak, their population was 380 down to 40. They're recovering. That their red list doesn't really have the idea of their population. Some say it could be 100,000, some don't know. But now they're noticing it's 10 individuals per kilometer squared. But the thing is a risk of extinction per another outbreak. And when we're talking about conservation issues, conserving this stuff is an issue. And you cannot plan for a virus. So therefore, I think this is the biggest conservation issues we can get. So here are these sites. I would say read them. Again, there's a book called Spillover. I would read that. And if you have any questions, please contact me.